Hello, and welcome to our Ventura TV. I'm MB Hanrahan, and today my guest is Liz Campos. She has been a council person on the west side of Ventura and will and always be a community activist. I think I can say that in full confidence. And we here at our Ventura TV have been doing a little series on the unhoused issues and all the ramifications of that in Ventura County, Ventura. And I kind of wanted to get into the nuances of people that live in their vehicles. So without further ado, Liz, why don't you tell us your story?
Well, I'm one of those people that lives in my vehicle. It's not a little car or van, and it's not parked sporadically around the street. It's a large bus that's built for people to carry people with disabilities. So I'm in a vehicle that can hold my wheelchair, and I have a lift to get in and out. I'm on private property with some people who are just very generous and kind to me, who I've known for years. And it's safe for me, and no one can feel put upon on the streets, which is unfortunately happening all too often.
How did you get there?
Um, well, several years ago, my landlord bought a house in West Ventura, and I lived in it for 12 years. I think he chose me to rent it because the ceilings were all 6 feet high.
Oh my
And
gosh.
so nobody that wasn't in a wheelchair could have lived in it comfortably. And the day he got his papers back clearing the mortgage, he called me and said he was going to sell it and get out. And we fought for a couple of years because he wouldn't hire a lawyer to give me the papers properly. There was some little harassment going on and things. But the fact is, ultimately, when he sold the house and it closed escrow, I did have to move.
Mhm.
My friends built up the paratransit bus enough for me to have space to sleep and solar panels so I can cook with electric, which is safer than gas. So um, I'm surviving it.
I appreciate your candor, and it's always interesting to hear different ways how people end up in their situations, so as to break through stereotypes and such like that. Okay, so you're very involved in the community. One thing that I've seen is what you'd almost call like a community of caravans, just like a long line of vehicles parked along a street. Do you have any insight in how the city of Ventura has been dealing with that in the past, or just so that people know? Like, because for me, for instance, there was a big caravan community, and then suddenly I started seeing paperwork in the windows, and then suddenly it was gone. So I don't know what happened.
Well, in right before the start of the pandemic, the compassionate people who work in the housing divisions of the county determined that out near you was a good spot for some of those RVs to park. So they instituted a program where a person, if their vehicle was in good condition and running properly and registered, could get a permit from the county to park in that space and not have to move it every day, not be harassed or hassled, do what they have to do. But they needed to cooperate with the county services to search for housing. And a lot of those permits initially were given to people with children living in the RVs.
Hmm.
The county, working with the different school districts, got them housed. And then the individual adults who were living in the RVs, who are good people, most of them had jobs, um, were worked with the workers at the county and case managers, and were able to either find homes to move into or find places where they could live in their RV in exchange for doing work on a ranch, for example. I know
Mm.
several of them got hired outside the county to work in a place where there's enough land for them to all have a little space for their RVs.
Hmm.
So, there's an awful lot of good people who are unsheltered in Ventura County, in the United States, all over the world. It's a worldwide phenomena right now. I think having to do with financial greed myself.
I've also heard that one of the main beefs is a lack of reasonable housing, that where people can actually get in and afford it.
Absolutely.
What's your thoughts about the it's another quotes solution that I've heard about, where it's almost like caravans, vehicles are corralled into like a giant parking lot, almost like a shelter for vehicles and people that live in them. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, Ventura, the city of Ventura, but not really the city, it's through some of the churches,
Hmm.
have what they call a safe sleep program where people can come at night and park their vehicles and sleep. They have to get out early in the morning and they don't have access to bathrooms. So it's really a minimalist experience. And it's unfortunate because of the lack of support from city services that they then have to move out in the morning. So they're not able to attend an event at night that goes after 7 p.m. because they have to be parked and the gates locked at 7. They're not really able to participate in the community.
And they're still on the run in
So,
the day.
yes, exactly. And so it's very hard for most of them to function properly in the safe sleep situation, because people who have the wherewithal to get a vehicle and survive living in it are the ones who are most likely to also have jobs. We have an awful lot of people living in boats at the harbor, same situation. These are not vagrants and drug addicts. These are hardworking citizens who, for some unfortunate reason, lost their housing. And because housing is so expensive in the city and county of Ventura, they've been unable to be housed. There are some people who live in houses who like to say, well, if they worked harder or if they tried harder, they could get housing. But the cost of housing right now requires a person to work 2 full-time jobs if they're earning minimum wage, only to pay the rent. They still can't eat, they can't clothe their children or do laundry if they're in that kind of situation. So we have a lot of families living 2 and 3 in a small house, only because it's the only way that they can pay the rent. There was an article in the newspaper this morning, not an article, a letter to the editor responding to an article a few days ago about the cost of housing.
Yeah, it's wild. You have so much you have a context, an actual real live context for understanding some of these issues. What's the best way for someone to contact you if they want to share a story and or pick your brain and or I don't know, contact you?
Well, they can reach me via email at my city council email address is lcampos@cityofventura.ca.gov. They may be able to call me. I have a couple of phone numbers going. They can reach me by reaching out to the West Side Community Council because I'm connected. I'm not on the board any longer, but I'm connected to people who are, and they know how to contact me almost all the time.
That's
And
fantastic.
if they want to discuss the housing issues, they can come to city council meetings. The first meeting of the month, public speaking is up front at the start of the meeting, and they can get 3 minutes to make a statement about how they feel about housing or what their own needs are. And usually when I see someone having trouble with housing and they speak during a council meeting, I'll try and reach out to them also.
I so appreciate you reminding us of that valuable tool as citizens, because in the long run, unfortunately, we have to begin by advocating for ourselves a lot of times.
Yes.
And on that, I want to thank you so much for joining me, Liz. And I want to thank you, the public, for joining us. This is MB Hanrahan for Our Ventura TV, and I will see you next time.